Self-studying has taken over the internet. You've seen them, how to learn something new on your own or how to avoid brain rot. But as independent researchers, don't we already do this? In this video, we will discuss how you can utilize, adjust, and exploit personal curriculums to your advantage. And we'll also design a sample curriculum together. And we're going to address how it does not work for us solo scholars. Hi, I'm Madeline Feierstein, trained historian and criminologist. I study crime, prisons, and America during wartime. I've also used personal curriculums for years. Essentially, a personal curriculum mimics a college syllabus. And many of us actually take real-life syllabi from the internet. It's designed so that you don't have to enroll in a course. You don't have to spend that money, and you don't have to spend time driving to these places. You can learn from the comfort of your own home, and you can learn things you've always wanted to learn, or maybe there's not even a course offered in it. Maybe you have to create your own syllabi for such a niche topic that universities don't usually teach. It's also helpful for interdisciplinary topics that don't fall into one field of study or category. I've personally enjoyed watching this influx of content on YouTube and Instagram, right, about personal curriculums and this new fight against what many call anti-intellectualism. There's this big drive, especially for people in their 20s and their 30s and beyond, to just learn new things and fight doom scrolling, fight this trend we have to stay on our phones, to be on screen time. So what I like about these curriculums is you can design it really for your life, right? If you're somebody that is always on their computer working, like me, I'm consistently have a screen in front of me, maybe I want to design something that relies on more analog items like magazines or books or more printed materials like that. Here are some examples of personal curriculums that I've seen in the wild. So I have friends who love Greek mythology, just obsessed with it since childhood, right? And they read all the new historical fiction coming out about Greek myths. And they've always wanted to learn more about ancient Greek culture, the society, warfare, politics, right? And so they designed this kind of ancient Greece course for themselves that they're the ones grading their work, they're the ones assigning the work, they're finding their own resources, but the way they structure it looks like modules, or it looks like week 1, week 2, right? So like week 1, maybe the more ancient Greeks, like the Mycenaean era, right? Or they talk about Athens and Sparta in another module in another week. I also have friends who enjoy cooking as a hobby, right? It's something they enjoy in their free time, they're super good at it. I'm not one of those people. They've never studied cuisines. Maybe they take a recipe from the internet, from a blog, from a cookbook, follow something they saw on TikTok, but they're not studying really the technology, terminology, and those techniques. So maybe they'll spend a month really deep diving into Japanese cuisine and cooking styles and the history behind the cooking styles too. And then the next month, they'll go over to West African cuisine and study the history and the techniques and the ingredients and how they're cultivated. So you can really go crazy with that. I also enjoy personal curriculums because there are some topics, and I have a lot, some topics that intimidate me. So one of those topics is classic literature. So I have a degree in literature. I studied American and English literature as an associate's degree, but I did not read all of the classics, right? I only read a select few, and so the ones I haven't read, these large tomes, are really intimidating. So these personal curriculums can be a great starting point. Maybe you don't want to tackle all of English literature in one course. Maybe you just want to focus on Renaissance literature, or even more specifically, you want to read Machiavelli, or you want to study George Eliot and the time period she lived in, right? So you can focus in as much as you want. You can funnel it from entire field to entire era, entire author, or maybe even just one work. Maybe you're going to read Middlemarch by George Eliot for an entire spring and deep dive into it. For independent researchers, there can be a little bit of a problem with personal curriculums. Oftentimes, we are bound to specific subject matters. We already have a list of topics we study. We have time-bound projects. People need things done. You're kind of known for writing articles or books or making videos on a certain topic. So maybe you feel uncomfortable branching out or feel like it's not your field or you don't have like time for this. And that's not about time management. We're independent researchers. We can fit it into our schedule. But when we already have a whole bunch of stuff lined up, or people are expecting us to produce more work on like the American Revolution, but you're super into studying butterflies and insects, right? It may throw people off if you're suddenly producing work about insects, but you still want to learn about it. So let's talk about ways we can really blend this and combine this. I'm making a point here about, let's take that kind of early America and botany example, right? Or bug example. I can totally just keep my bug interest, my plant interests separate. You don't have to always optimize your hobbies. There's this big push in today's world that the things we do for fun have to amount to something. Maybe they should generate a supplemental income. They should be able to produce something. You are totally welcome to design a curriculum for enjoyment's sake. Maybe it will help your research. Maybe it will just make you happier. And that is what will help your research. Maybe a happier, more content, satisfied, independent researcher will produce higher quality work. So feel free to just stop the video at this point and be like, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna study bugs. It makes me happy. And I'm gonna write better articles about the American Revolution. Thanks, Madeline. For the rest of us that would like to kind of optimize on this and see how our personal interests or things we really want to explore can enhance our research, let's dive into it. Now, at university, many of us, of course, had a very tailored program. The curriculum we had to adhere to, of course, did not cover everything in our field. I studied for my bachelor's criminology, such a cool degree, and they had 3 tracks. You could do criminal justice, you could do homeland security and law enforcement, or you can do just a legal track going straight, like the kind of pre-law type stuff. Now, I had a lot of interests that were interdisciplinary. Things like, I took classes from each of those tracks, but I stayed with criminal justice. And I also minored in forensic psychology. I was super interested in forensic psychiatry and kind of what makes the brain go bad, right? What makes criminals criminals, and then how it affects us in prosecution, in lawmaking and stuff. So I spent time with this degree. I didn't get to study everything I wanted to study. And immediately upon graduation, I decided to learn the things I did not have time for in my program. I studied older cases. I studied constitutional law about specific topics like the death penalty, and about the insanity defense, and about the death penalty for people with intellectual disabilities, right? Very niche topics that unfortunately in the university program, that was relegated to like a special topics course or like a senior seminar, which would of course recycle, and the university would choose every semester what the senior seminar was. You couldn't really choose for yourself. If you weren't able to do an independent study, or your master's thesis was one topic, but you also like this topic, right? Personal curriculums for the independent researcher can supplement and fill gaps in our knowledge, things that we really need to learn about our own field. It's okay to admit you just don't know everything, or the training or expertise you've acquired just didn't cover everything that you really want. I use these personal curriculums to launch my career in its own direction. Many people who graduated with me in this criminology program went on to do the things they did. Many of them became lawyers, a lot went to law enforcement, a lot worked for the government, and I was like, history! So I combined crime studies, right, criminal law with historical research, and that's what I do. I study crime, prisons, and the effects of laws and big legislation on America, especially during wartime, such as Japanese incarceration, such as confiscation during the Civil War, etc. So you can use these PCs, these personal curriculums, to push yourself into a different area. You don't have to completely go off the deep end and get a whole different degree. You don't always have to enroll another university program or spend 6 months out of the year in this kind of like short course. You can do it all from the comfort of your home. Most of my friends, especially my online friends, a lot of them study early modern literature. They study Shakespeare. They study these works from the 16th and 17th centuries. And what I find interesting is a lot of them have been developing personal curriculums to study English society around the work. It's not enough to just study Shakespeare or these early prints, right? A lot of them have started to look more into the politics, economics, societal taboos. Because of course, if many of you remember from your high school English courses, when you studied Shakespeare, when you read those plays, you also looked at why, like Othello and racism, The Merchant of Venice and anti-Semitism. So there's, of course, we know literature isn't just in a vacuum. It represents society, it represents history up to that point. It represents societal values. So friends, let's look at how we can create a personal curriculum that fits our independent research. And I am going to utilize ChatGPT to help me with this. I'm not usually a big fan of AI for historical research. I love doing things on my own. I love doing my own work and transcribing by myself, researching by myself. But for this, it's hard to sometimes find a college syllabus that fits your niche topic, or it's just a lot of brain power to module it, right? We're going to see how we can use AI to help build the framework, the skeleton, but then we're going to use our own creativity, our own thinking to fill in some of those gaps. I'm here on ChatGPT, right? Now, the key is, if any of you have used this before, you have to be pretty specific because it's going to generalize a lot of your stuff and it's not going to be very helpful. So, and you can look, this is kind of weird, but of course, talk to it like it's a person, because that way it will help you frame it. So, for example, we got going on here, I want to design a self-study curriculum. Thank you for helping me spell it. Curriculum for, in order to learn more about ancient Greek culture. Well, going back to our example of my friend who loves Greek myths, but needs to know more about ancient Greece. I research Greek mythology and want to learn more about the history, culture, and society behind these myths. You can never put too many details. This is the more the merrier, right? I have 3 months until I want to submit a book, let's go draft book manuscript on the intersection of Greek myths and ancient Greek society. And then here's where we get into like the requests, right? The requirements here. Can you create a self-study plan for me? This plan must include modules, reading assignments, and writing assignments. Please also, say please, for being nice. Please also include videos or documentaries available on YouTube. Putting the availability, like for example, if you only want to use books available in print, or if you only want to use books available on Kindle or online, to speak specifically, I'm putting on YouTube because I don't want it to send me to some documentary I have to pay for, or that I have to like be subscribed to Hulu or Amazon Prime for, right? We got the reasons why we're doing it, what our goal is. We got a time constraint here, like 3 months, okay? We also have the end result. This is what makes it different from a funsies personal curriculum, right? Because we're actually trying to produce something here. We also have what it needs to include, specifics, and requirements. Now, we're not gonna like it 100%, and we're gonna talk about right now how to adjust this, how to make it work for you. All right, let's read that. It has broken this up into monthly chunks, okay? So the first month, and I love that they include emojis, that's just so cute. Foundations, right, of ancient Greek society. Week 1, the myths, or myth foundations. Here's where we're gonna adjust this. Maybe you've already read this book, or maybe you can't get access to it. Maybe it's not available. Maybe it's too much money because books are expensive, right? Or maybe you just find this jacked up version of a PDF online and it's just not working for you. This is where we can go in and replace it. So you can go on YouTube, go on Google, and just look up books about, classic tomes on ancient Greece about the myths, right? You can you find more, supplement it. That's okay. I love how this didn't fill itself in. That's totally fine. We can go onto YouTube, of course, look up foundations of ancient Greek myths or more about the mythology and put it here. This is where, again, we might want to tweak. We're going to write a 1,000-word essay. Maybe your book already covers something like the major players in Greek mythology, Zeus, Athena, and the heroes. Maybe this is chapter 5 of your book. And so you can use this essay kind of as a sample chapter. Or if you're like, wow, I really need to learn more about the minor gods. Then we can go in, we can ask ChatGPT, we can ask them, hey, month 1, week 1, that writing assignment, I'm hoping to learn more about the minor gods. Can you produce a list of the minor gods for me for that module? Perfect. Week 2, okay. And sometimes they include links, which is very helpful. More essays, right? Reading, watching, writing. So it's kind of repeating itself. But you see all the different thematics. And what I really enjoy about doing personal curriculums first on ChatGPT and then adjusting it to what fits me is maybe it's considering things you haven't. We don't know everything, right? We don't know everything about a topic. So maybe there are themes or discussions on here you were not familiar with, or you're like, oh, of course, cults and the religion. I must include that, duh. So it's very helpful when you're trying to fill in your knowledge gaps, but you're not entirely sure what those gaps even are. All right, we've got month 2. We're getting into more stuff. Now notice here, we love credible sources, the BBC, History Channel. And if you're like, well, Madeline, I don't want to be writing stuff all the time. Is there any other kind of end result or something I can produce? Of course, you can make a YouTube video. You can have a field trip. If you are lucky enough to live near your subject matter or have artifacts or stories about your subject matter, maybe going back to that bug example, maybe there's a butterfly exhibit. Maybe there actually is a botanical garden you can go visit that has butterflies. So the end result doesn't always have to be something so boring and so structured. Maybe it's write a creative writing or a poem or draw it, right? Maybe your book or your journal article has illustrations and you want to go out to the battlefield and sketch out the plan. Maybe you want to go visit an art gallery and look at the pieces of art that you've been studying online and then see how it makes you feel. You don't always have to do these stiff and kind of boring essays. Right, so again, it kind of repeats itself, reading, writing, right? Supplemental resources, extra stuff, and then study tips because they're like so smart. Now, you can always ask ChatGPT to make this into a printable, to make it into some type of editable Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, to export onto your computer. And then, of course, you can always ask it, like we said before, actually, I want to learn more about this, or, you know what, can you make this more of a creative writing exercise? Ask it to tweak it, right? Ask it to tweak it as much as you want. So we've made our curriculum. Yay, great job. But how do we actually incorporate this into our daily life? As independent researchers, we got a lot of stuff. We got projects and deadlines. We also go out and do events, maybe do lectures, or you're participating in special events, conferences. What I want you to understand is, with that curriculum we made, remember to be specific about time-bound projects. For example, I have a lecture that I'm giving in July. It is currently March, and I'm not done with it yet. And so if I need some support with a specific part of this lecture, like I'm not super familiar with this historical figure I'm talking about, or maybe there's a law or an event that happens that I just need more information on, I could say to my, maybe my AI companion or my, in my head, I could list out, I have 4 weeks. I want to dedicate the rest of March to studying this dude, this event, this law. And that way I can also break down how to assign my gaps their respective times. The main difference between personal curriculums for funsies and personal curriculums for the independent researcher is the end result and the fact that the time boundness of these goals, of these objectives, are more set in stone. but they both achieve the same result, the same end goal: to expand your knowledge, enhance your learning, and fill in any knowledge gaps. How are you going to utilize personal curriculums for your independent research? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. Until next time.